Hello and welcome to Nationwide on the network service of the NTA. I'm Najat Atutijani. Thanks for joining us. 4 new cases of COVID-19 have been reported in Nigeria, 3 in Osun State and 1 in Ogun State. As at 11:35 a.m. 31st March 2020, 135 cases of COVID-19 have been confirmed in the country with 2 deaths. In exercise of the powers conferred on him by Sections 2, 3 and 4 of the Quarantine Act Cap Q2 Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 and all other powers enabling him in that behalf, President Muhammadu Buhari Monday signed the COVID-19 Regulations 2020, which declared COVID-19 a dangerous infectious disease. A statement by Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, says the regulations effective March 30, 2020 also give legal backing to various measures outlined in the President's national broadcast on March 29, 2020, such as restriction, cessation of movement in Lagos, FCT and Ogun State, and others towards containing the spread of the pandemic in the country. In addition, to ensure that Nigerians can still perform online transactions and use ATMs while observing these restrictions, exemption is granted financial systems and money markets to allow very skeletal operations in order to keep the system in light operations during the pendency of these regulations. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has described questioning the legality of the presidential order restricting movement in the FCT, Lagos and Ogun states as unnecessary, explaining that the action taken is not only important but very well backed by extant Nigerian laws. A press release by Laolu Akonde, Senior Special Assistant to the Vice President on Media and Publicity in the Office of the Vice President, describes the steps by the President as proactive, very relevant, important, and backed by a Quarantine Act of 1926, published in all of the laws of Nigeria. Vice President Osinbajo says the act allows the President to designate any local area, any part of the country, as a place which may be infected or under the threat of communicable disease and could then make regulations of any kind. The Vice President says the act is a regulation that gives the President powers, and these powers come from the National Assembly, stating that the governors have extensive powers under the same Quarantine Act. The total lockdown order by President Buhari is in effect in the FCT, and Doyin Dia is monitoring some areas in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Doyin, what's the situation where you are?
Thank you for joining me, studio. As early as 11 p.m. Monday night, the total lockdown, as announced by President Muhammadu Buhari, took effect, with security agencies already manning their guard. And this morning as well, that was also sustained as early as, say, 6 a.m. They were already on the streets also to ensure that there is total compliance. And all of this, remember, is part of the measures put in place by the government of Nigeria to ensure that people stay at home, while people who are saddled with the responsibility of controlling the further spread of COVID-19 take their position. I will be moving to ascertain the level of compliance, but this is Katampe Banex Expressway, and as you can see, vehicles are moving once in a while, and perhaps those are some of the essential workers that are exempted. Over to you.
Thank you, Doyin. Similarly, the first day of lockdown in the Federal Capital Territory records significant compliance, as Salihu Abdullahi reports from his visit to some area councils.
Kubwa and Dutse in Bwari Area Council are two densely populated residential areas in Abuja, notable for trade businesses. The ambience here today is, however, different. This is Dutse Junction along Kubwa Express Road. The two major roads are usually busy with vehicular movement at this time of the day. But this is the situation at the moment, as vehicular movements are restricted to identified essential workers. The team of law enforcement officers around Dutse are, however, having it difficult separating non-essential workers from the essential ones.
Despite all this sensitization, despite all these announcements on radios, jingles, going on televisions and radios, and newspapers as well, they still turn out. If you are not for essential services, I'll turn them back from here. All these ones, as you're seeing, they are going back home. And people walking on the pedestrians, we also turn them back home. These are things we are doing for now. We also move in, as time goes on, shop to shop. If you're not foodstuff shop or pharmaceuticals, we'll lock down your shop.
This challenge persists in Gwarimpa.
I say go back.
This thing that our president have said that we should stay where he's doing it not because of himself, just because of us. Because when they said life, then when they say life and you talk of freedom, do you understand? When you don't have life, you don't have freedom.
For essential workers like Ijoma Assumpta, who is a nurse and depends on public transportation, movement to her place of work is a challenge.
But I think the government can help us, the essential workers, by maybe providing a vehicle or maybe that can convey us to our workplaces.
I came out, the street was so empty, very unlike our streets. If not that my job is necessary, it's important I go to work, I will stand home. I think that's what we need.
Because when we read from the office yesterday that some of us that are living from Dede, Dakwa, Kaduna Road, they will join me and take them together. Even that time when we come to checking point, the police asks of all of our ID cards, we show them before they allow us pass.
It is expected that as the countdown to the 2 weeks stay-at-home began, compliance and enforcement will also be intensified. In Abuja, Salihu Abdullahi, NTA News.
Thank you, Salihu Abdullahi. And now we'll join our reporter in the field, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, to tell us what's happening out there. What's the situation on ground?
Thank you, Najatu Tijani. We are now on one of the popular road in the city center of Abuja. I mean the Ahmadu Bello Way. Right behind me is the edifice of the Federal Ministry of Finance, and on my left is the busiest route to the nation's one of the nation's airports. While on my right is also one of the busiest routes to the nation's three-arm zone. Right opposite me, of course, is the edifice of the Foreign Affairs Ministry. You can see from the background that there is less vehicular movement. This is not unconnected with the fact that the presidential directive of total lockdown of the city center and of course other cities across the country is fully enforced. And one thing we observed is that detachment of security personnel are strategically located across locations in the city center to ensure that no citizen flout.
It seems we lost the connection there, but thank you, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, for that update. The presidential stay-at-home order is also being implemented in satellite towns of the Federal Capital Territory. From the Murtala Muhammad Expressway, the order is manifesting with near-empty roads compared to the heavy vehicular traffic which usually characterizes the 8-lane highway. This road leads to Katampe Gwarimpa Estate, Dutse Alhaji, Bwari, Kubwa, and exits Zuba area. In the satellite town of Dutse Alhaji, men of the Nigeria Police Force are on ground to implement the movement restriction order. The main market stalls are under lock and key, while some residents are on the street, taking advantage of the free roads to do some workouts.
Actually, I work, but since the government have instructed that we should stay at home, I think it's the best opportunity for me to keep fit. Take by so to energize my immune system and giving me the ability to fight anything that comes my way.
Yeah, exactly. It's for my gen. We don't have a constant light, so I have to support myself. Coupled with the heat, the period now, we are in a very heat period, so we have to be prepared.
What do you say about the necessity for the curfew in Abuja?
Yeah, to me, it's a normal thing. I think it's for our own sake and for our own security. Governments, they must have made provision for themselves. But I think what the curfew and everything now is for the interest of the masses. Because if we don't keep to these rules, eventually a lot of things are going to happen beyond our own expectation. So I think it's nice, at least for now, to curtail the spread of this deadly virus.
Meanwhile, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Muhammad Musa Bello, says the administration has established a mechanism to cater for vulnerable groups in the territory during the 2 weeks lockdown of the nation's capital. The minister disclosed this at a media briefing after stakeholders' security committee meeting on the presidential lockdown measure against COVID-19. Shaibu Onoze Yakubu tells us more.
FCT Minister Muhammad Musa Bello explained that the administration, in partnership with relevant federal government agencies, will cater for the vulnerable persons through the palliative measures. The FCT Palliative Committee will be headed by the FCT Minister of State, Ramatu Tijani Aliu, to be supported by the Area Council Chairman, traditional and religious leaders, as well as non-governmental organizations.
We in the FCT are going to implement Mr. President's directive 100%, and all organs of the FCT, security services and other government agencies have agreed and worked out modalities to ensure that all entry and exit points of the city are manned by relevant officials.
Heads of security agencies and top management staff of FCTA, as well as other stakeholders, attended the security committee meeting. Shaibu Onoze Yakubu, NTA News.
And earlier on, the Minister of State, FCT, Hajia Ramatu Tijani Aliu, was in our studios to tell us more about these palliative measures.
For the palliatives, first and foremost, we have foodstuff like rice, we have beans, we have gari, that's in a package. Then in another package, we have the Maggi, that's the seasoning. We have Maggi, we have groundnut oil, the small size of the groundnut oil, tomato sachets, raw in it, and what it just takes to do the meal. And that is packaged, so you have two different packages. Now the grains and then the soup ingredients. And then these, also we have a structure, a 9-man committee, the Central Working Committee, which is in the Federal Capital Territory, that's at the headquarters, supervised by myself, the FEMA DG, and some other directors at that level. Then now you come down to the area council level, we have another 9-man committee, drawing membership from the chairman, civil society organization, religious leaders from the chieftaincy affairs as well. Given the 9-man structure now, takes you down to the area councils. And at the area council, you have 10 wards in each of the area councils. The FCT comprises of 6 area councils. So the 10 wards in 5 area councils, but particular case of the AMAC is 12 area councils. So in each of the area councils, you have 9-man committee in each of the wards, giving you 90 in each ward, in each area council.
Each area council.
So 90 in each area council multiplied by 5, you have 450. That is that structure. Then you come to AMAC with a total of 120. You are talking of now the members of the committee that will function, the manpower. So when you have 120 here, at the end again, subsequently, the chairmen have 5-man committee under them, drawing membership from the royal fathers, religious bodies, civil society organization, and active women and youth from the market. This is to have an all-inclusive kind of program. So with this now, the one at the top is saddled with the responsibility of linking to the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. So when the palliative comes, we've got stores for storage. Now we are storing in the Hajj campus, Batsanjiwa. There are stores that have been converted for food storage. That is serving as the FCT bank, food bank. Then we have another storage at the NYSC camp, and we have the Social Development Secretariat. All this in turn, we will now disburse to the first set of people. And then there are trucks and vehicles that have been set, and they will be tagged and labeled so that they are identified as workers, and each of them carry a pass. So the total of the workforce we have around here is about 818. Besides now a larger central working committee comprising of all the basic staff that will further coordinate and inspect the distribution at the warehouse. So we are looking at roughly about 1,200.
So we're talking, we've just explained to us the structure.
The structure.
So this is from top to bottom. Now
in the places, that's at the lower level where we have identified using the data from the SIP and transfers done by the Ministry of Humanitarian and from our own social development database. We have addresses of the at least poorest of the poor and the vulnerable within the Federal Capital Territory. And this now, when we identify, is a door-to-door exercise. We go in the trucks and we call the leader of the house, and you drop in front and you mark the house X.
That was the Minister of State for the FCT, Hajia Ramatu Tijani Aliyu. We'll now join Musa Abubakar in Sokoto for a situation report from there. Hello, Musa. What's happening in Sokoto?
Well, unlike other places, markets have been asked to close, but Sokoto markets remain open, and as you can see, people are moving in and out of the market. But that does not mean that the authorities have not taken other measures such as telling civil servants to work from home, as well as schools have also closed so that students could get to observe social distancing. And also there has been ban on gatherings, unnecessary gatherings in the state. So, but the problem with most of this market is that it's very difficult to observe social distancing. The market are still open. The market are still open. The market are still open. People can go in and buy whatever they want. But the problem is observing, it's very difficult to observe social distancing. And there has not been anything put on ground by the authorities to actually allow or encourage people to observe their hand washing before they go into the markets.
And have you talked to any of the people? Are they aware of what's going on and how important it is for them to maintain social distancing?
Well, earlier there has been enlightenment campaign around both in places of worship, and people have been encouraged to observe social distancing as well as wash their hands frequently and things like that. And that's the reason why the authorities now went ahead to close boundaries and which restrict movement in and outside the state. So they are very much aware about social distancing, only that it's very difficult to observe social distancing in a market like this where the space cannot really accommodate as much people as possible.
Thank you very much, Musa Abubakar. We'll be expecting more updates later from you. Meanwhile, all working journalists and other media staff in Lagos and Ogun states, as well as the Federal Capital Territory, have been advised to use their valid identity cards to access their places of work and assignment venues during the 14-day lockdown directed by the President in the two states and the FCT. In a statement signed by Segun Adeyemi, Special Assistant to the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, the clarification became necessary in view of the inadequate time to properly accredit working journalists in the affected states and the FCT during the period. He said members of the media are expected to continue to provide essential services during the lockdown in order to keep Nigerians well updated on the COVID-19 pandemic. This is NTA Nationwide. We'll take you to Lagos, where Dotun is standing by with reports making rounds from that zone.
Thank you, Najatu. Now, just like the Federal Capital Territory, Lagos is under lockdown in accordance with President Muhammadu Buhari's strict orders that citizens stay at home for 2 weeks as the mission to stop the spread of COVID-19 reaches fever pitch. Becky Madujemu, who monitored the compliance level in the Lekki-Ajah suburb of Lagos, now reports.
The Lekki-Ajah suburb, which is about 42 kilometers from Lagos mainland, is a densely populated axis of Lagos. Badore is among the communities in this vicinity. At a glance, it looked like a regular public holiday or even election day, as the route was devoid of traffic. A drive further down showed commercial tricycle riders busy picking up and dropping off passengers. For them, it was business as usual. Their activities could go undisrupted due to the non-presence of enforcement agents. Essential workers were also on the sidewalk doing their bit.
Are you supposed to work today? Where are your colleagues?
The Badore side. See one there. Some people are in Badore.
Okay. Yeah. So you're going to work throughout these 2 weeks?
Yes.
Badore leads to Ado Road. Here, traffic was sparse. It was while looking out for security operatives that I ran into a barricade erected by a group of youths who demanded cash tokens from motorists. At the popular Ajah roundabout, I spotted a few commuters waiting for commercial transportation. I offered 2 men a lift, and during our interaction, it was clear that workers in this category will have a tedious fortnight.
How long have you been standing at the bus stop?
About 30 minutes.
30 minutes, and you have to be at work?
Yes, ma'am.
I was tired, and this is a bit heavy. So I was standing there looking for vehicle to go back, and police is blocking road. So a lot of people are scared of passing, even with their private cars.
And after dropping them off, I noticed a heavy presence of security operatives at many stops on the Lekki Expressway. The growing volume of motorists on the stretch implies that the lockdown is ironically a busy period for them. Unlike workers of the ever-busy toll gate that separates Lekki from Victoria Island, the staff made a no-show, giving a true definition to the meaning of the word lockdown. In Lagos, Becky Madujemu, NTA News.
And I also visited the airport in Lagos, specifically the domestic wing, to monitor and of course see the compliance level with the lockdown directive. And here's that report. The road leading to the airport is devoid of the usual heavy traffic. Getting to the airport was an easy breezy affair. The lounge was quiet, without the blaring loudspeakers announcing flight schedules. No airplane roaring in takeoff or landing. And of course, the passengers at home complying with the lockdown directive. As the federal government continues to monitor closely the COVID-19 situation in the country, the Federal Airport Authority say activities here were shut down since last week Thursday, and no airline or flight operations have been taking place since then. The gates are under lock and key, and even some operators or motor vehicles who have come have been turned back. Even the commercial drivers who run car hire services and a few airport staff who dotted the airport premises say they showed up to monitor the situation on the ground and ensure compliance. In Lagos. And that's it from here. Nationwide continues after this break.
Coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, has been declared by the World Health Organization as a global pandemic. While clinical trials are ongoing for a vaccine and a possible cure, there is no known treatment for the coronavirus. Nigeria has recorded some of these cases, and people are advised to take these preventive measures to keep themselves safe and contain the further spread of the virus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water, or use hand sanitizers all the time. Maintain social distancing. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Practice respiratory hygiene. If you have fever, cough, and difficulty breathing, seek medical care early. Do not panic. Stop the spread of unconfirmed news. Follow the official government news outlets and report all cases immediately. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Proactive measures in the containment of COVID-19 in Nigeria.
The whole instruments of government are now mobilized to confront what has now become both a health emergency and an economic crisis.
This week on NTA Tuesday Live, assessing the national response on COVID-19 for those who should know. NTA Tuesday Live at 10:30 p.m. Incisive and informative. Don't miss it.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous. Whether you do it for fun or for political gains, real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
Nigerians, coronavirus is dangerous. It can kill. When you see this sign, high fever, cough, shortness of breath, drowsiness, pneumonia, don't panic, don't hide. Don't embark in self-medication. Promptly visit the nearest medical facility. Report all cases to the nearest hospital. Prevention is key. Avoid contact with infected persons. Avoid crowded areas as much as possible. Wash your hands regularly. Use hand sanitizers. Your life is precious. Stay alive. Live long, live right. This message is sponsored by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture and the Nigerian Film Corporation. Nigerian Film Corporation, powering possibility.
Thanks for staying with NTA Nationwide. The body of permanent secretaries headed by the head of the Civil Service of the Federation in its efforts to help the federal government fight and curb the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic has donated items to be used for personal and home hygiene. The head of service, Dr. Folashade Yemieson, during the presentation said permanent secretaries contributed a large chunk of their salaries to get the home and body care items. She noted that the items were chosen because hygiene is important in the fight against the pandemic. The items to be distributed to the vulnerable in society include 100 cartons of bar soaps, 100 cartons of bar soap, 100 cartons of antiseptic soap, 80 cartons of disinfectant, and 100 cartons of washing powder. The items have been handed over to the federal government through the chairman of the COVID-19 Presidential Task Force, Boss Mustafa. The chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 commended the gesture and commitment of the body in affairs of government. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Hajia Sadia Farouk, who took charge of the items, promised that the items would get to the targeted beneficiaries. The Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, has joined other airports across the globe on total lockdown to curtail the spread of coronavirus. Emmanuel Ayemiro reports that 6 other airports in the North Central have also complied.
Starting from the presidential wing, which is to my far right of the airport, and then to my far left where you have the cargo section, the international terminal, and now the domestic terminal, you will hardly hear the sound of any movement of an aircraft due to the suspension of all flight activities as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. This has largely affected enterprises all over the world. As a matter of fact, an estimate by the International Labour Organization says that an average of 25 million jobs will be lost all over the world, with an antecedent $3.5 trillion loss of income. And this will have to tell much on 3 major things, which are income, enterprises, and jobs. Narrowing this down to our own airport, largely affected by this shutdown, you will realize that the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, has a lot of linkages with hotels and tourism. Since the lockdown, what has the situation been like?
Well, you can see the bubbling Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, is cool and calm after the suspensions of all flight operations into the airport. Our staff on essential duties are available, are around. In case of any emergency, we kickstart our operation that we can receive any airport on special permission. That is what is available in all the 7 airports in the North Central region: Kaduna, Jos Airport, Minna Airport, Bauchi Airport, Gombe Airport, and Makurdi. These are the airports that are under the North Central region. So far so good. We have complied with the directive of close down of airport operations. All aircraft operations. As you can see, the airport is empty. No single commercial aircraft because they have all returned to base, Kano and Lagos precisely. But if you go to the general aviation terminal, you see a lot of private jets that have a home base in Abuja.
Now that the airport is temporarily shut down for another 1 month, are there efforts by the federal government to carry out disinfection of the airport before it reopens?
Today, we handle the disinfection of the Nnamdi Azikiwe International new terminal. We also go to the domestic terminal and the general aviation terminal and do the same.
The emptiness of the airport, starting from the ticketing section to the check-in counters and immigration, remind me of when the terminal building was newly constructed, waiting for takeoff. Emmanuel Ayemiro, NTA News.
Meanwhile, to ensure inclusive access to sensitization against the spread of the coronavirus pandemic, the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development has taken the campaign to persons living with disabilities in Karimajiji community, a suburb of the Federal Capital Territory. Ruth Agwele reports.
For residents of Karimajiji community here in the FCT, it is one of those days that keeps hope alive. This visit by the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development to the camp of persons living with disabilities is part of walking the talk on the sensitization campaign and efforts towards ensuring that no one is left behind in containing the spread of the deadly coronavirus. The Minister, Sadia Umar Farouk, who was represented by the Director of Rehabilitation of the Ministry, emphasized continuous support, protection and empowerment of persons living with disabilities.
The Ministry has swung into action to ensure that our brothers and sisters and children who are living with disabilities will receive significant attention and care. We raise the number of qualified beneficiaries with special needs who will receive government support.
For the residents of the camp, this gesture will go a long way in safeguarding their lives against the deadly COVID-19.
We will make sure that our people will wash hands like in 20 minutes time all the time. We will also tell them to use the mask.
As the sensitization continues, prevention, the ministry believes, should be top priority. In Abuja, Ruth Agwele, NTA News.
Ondo State Government announces total ban on all market activities. This and other stories as we join Agatha in Benin Network Center.
A warm welcome to Benin. Ondo State Government has announced a total ban on all market activities irrespective of the item. The directive takes effect across the state today, Tuesday, the 31st of March. Doris Solomoko reports.
The State Commissioner for Information, Mr. Donald Ojogo, while announcing the shutdown of the market, said residents of the state flagrantly disobeyed earlier directive of partial closure of markets, which has raised further fears over the coronavirus. The government said all markets must remain closed until further notice. In the meantime, the Ondo State government has approved 98.84 million naira to tackle the coronavirus pandemic in the state, released 4 additional ambulances and deployed more health personnel.
But so far, no cases have been confirmed in Ondo State. 12 individuals tested.
A number of individuals and corporate organizations have started making cash and material donations in support of the fight against the pandemic. In Akure, Doris Ulumoko, NTA News.
And with the takeoff of the lockdown and restriction order by government in Ekiti State, the chairman of the Council of Traditional Rulers, Oba Adebanji Alabi, has appealed to residents to comply, while commending the federal and state governments for efforts to overcome the coronavirus pandemic in the country. Yemi Dalemo, who monitored compliance to the 14-day total lockdown, reports that residents are calling for prompt distribution of palliative items.
The various measures announced by the federal and state governments in the country, according to the traditional ruler and eminent legal luminary Are Afe Babalola, are aimed at ensuring the social distancing which is necessary to curtail further spread of the global pandemic. Oba Adebanji Alabi observed that the 14-day stay-at-home order will further help in detecting anyone with the virus where such can be easily controlled.
Must cooperate with government, as government has directed that there should be no market, the opening of markets. It's a pain that will not last too long. We should understand these developments and stay alive.
I called teachers in science, engineering and medicine to take advantage of the 1 month shutdown by the federal government to carry out as much as possible
fruitful research.
The Dr. Dawn order, announced by the Ekiti State Governor, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, saw major roads, motor parks, and other public places deserted in compliance with the directive. Some residents appealed for urgent palliative measure to cushion the effect of the order on them, as most of them say they earn their living on daily basis.
Anything that government can render for us as a help, they should do it in time.
Meanwhile, a task force on the compliance of the order on COVID-19 restriction in Ekiti State went round the Ado-Ekiti metropolis to arrest violators of the directive. In Ado-Ekiti, Yemi Dalimo, NT News.
That's our package, Najatu. You're on.
Thank you very much, Agatha. If you have not traveled or had contact with someone who has traveled or tested positive for COVID-19, or have no symptoms of COVID-19, then you have no business being tested for COVID-19. Lai Mohammed, Minister of Information and Culture, says. This was on NTA's Good Morning Nigeria, discussing part 2 of the topic COVID-19 Situation Report in States. Ekemini Williams reports.
With rising cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria, Minister of Information and Culture Lai Mohammed, who is also member of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, says the greatest danger Nigeria faces over the pandemic is a spread through communities. However, he assures that government is on top of its game to nip the problem in the bud, but implores citizens to cooperate.
But the big real game changer, I think, is will come in about 3 weeks' time. The new technology, the expert, when it comes on, then we probably have capacity for almost 500,000 testing, per day.
Health commissioners from Borno, Edo, Ebonyi states spoke on the level of preparedness within their domains to tackle the novel coronavirus.
There's been a lot of attrition in terms of healthcare workers leaving the state. Their safety has been our concern. At the moment, we've opened our windows to begin to profile and document volunteers who will probably be able to help us.
We right now have 25 ventilators already in Edo State. We just have 2 cases of coronavirus that have been confirmed, and they are doing very well, not even needing the function of a ventilator.
The Ebonyi State has also constructed and equipped with state-of-the-art equipments a treatment center in preparation for if there's any case recorded in Ebonyi State, equipped with ventilators, equipped with monitors, equipped with dialysis machines, and all the state-of-the-art equipment.
Borno State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Saliu Aliyu Kwayabura, urged federal government to expedite actions on the proximity of testing facilities to states. The minister, however, warned against stigmatization of persons infected with COVID-19, as well as spread of fake news, which could detract from government's efforts so far. In Abuja, Ekemini Williams, NTA News.
Yes. And joining us in the studio is a gerontologist, Dr. Hassan Bashir Jibril. You're welcome to our studios, Doctor.
Thank you very much.
Now, what's your take on the presidential address on COVID-19?
It is 110%. I really approve the stage taken by His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, about the action has taken. I am supporting that action without any reservation.
Now, as a professional who deals with the health of the elderly, there are reports that COVID-19 affects this group of people more than any other group. Is this true?
No, it is quite true. Why? Number one, the resistance against infection is very, very low in case of elderly individual. Secondly, the elderly individual, their eating pattern is low, and everything is low. Absorption, secretion, excretions of the elderly people is very, very low. As a result of that, they are so prone to develop coronary viruses. And then at the same time, they sometimes forget and forgive when to eat, why to eat, how to eat, and why to eat. So as a result of this, the resistance against the infection is very, very low. Although scientifically it's shown that this impact of these diseases is not only affected the elderly people. I think some people at the age of 40 and above, they develop this kind of a disease. But elderly people are more prone to develop this kind of infection.
So how would you what would you recommend the elderly do so that they guard against this?
Is a three aspect, to prevent and eradicate this kind of a diseases. Number one, personal hygiene. Number two, to increase the immunity resistance against any infection. Number four, palliative treatment, palliative action, eating a good food at the good time, at the right time. And if someone is overweight, has to reduce the weight. And if someone has kind of upper respiratory tract infection, has to be eliminated. And then at the same time, someone who has hypertension and diabetes has to be under control. By taking this action, I think, number one, we will be able to control, eradicate, and manipulate the coronary infection. Now, instead of the coronary infection to affect us, we will be able to affect it and we'll be able to control it and nothing will happen to us.
Speaking of control, Doctor, you're a citizen of the United States. Can you compare the stage that the infection is there in the US with Nigeria and what we can do to stop it progressing further?
It is quite different. You mentioned a very, very important aspect. I'm a citizen of the United States. And I have 4 children, all of them were medical doctors, and we have a nursing home. And we have been practicing this nursing home in here. And I've been in this system for quite a long time. Now, the United States system and that of Nigeria is quite different because here they believe in culture. Here they believe in tradition. Eating pattern, you will find that people eating with their hands and people eating in a group of 10, 11 people sitting together. In the United States, you are not allowed to eat by your hands. In the hospital that I'm running, if the state inspectors come and see me letting the patient eating with their foot, that hospital will be closed. So everybody is allowed to eat with spoons, with forks, just to avoid this kind of infection. Individuals can take infection from their hands and taking it into their stomach. Not only coronary infection, some other infection too, you will be able to take it from your hands and then take it into your system. So this could be avoided. And before eating, you have to wash your hands thoroughly and dry. Wash the hands with soap and water and dry it, before attempt to hold the spoon or even try and eat. Now, if you eat with your hands is carrying about 250 microorganisms. And these microorganisms sometimes will be destroyed by soap. And some of these microorganisms will not be destroyed by soap. As a result of this, eating is exposing ourselves, our hands into our system. And in the United States, something like this is not allowed because they maintain personal hygiene. They maintain eating pattern. All the food has a well-balanced diet. This will increase our immunity, will increase our resistance against any kind of infection, but it is limited in here. Here is pattern, everybody is patterned by culture, tradition, system, and free scientific era society. So it's very, very difficult, for us, to tell them and to listen to it. But I think in some pattern, the government of Nigeria, I think, taking a very drastic action, especially the president, and people listen to him. Now you can't see anybody on the street, which is very, very good. So to avoid contact is very, very important. Now the distance of contact, 5 to 6 feet away from each individual, and then put on some masks. If you put the mask in here now, you will be able to protect yourself from catching this infection, and then at the same time you have a tendency not to give this infection to anybody. By isolating that, I think we'll be able to curtail, control, manipulate, eliminate, eradicate this kind of deadly diseases.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you.
And that was Dr. Bashir Hassan, a gerontologist, telling us more about how to prevent COVID-19, especially in the elderly. There is high level of compliance with federal government's directive in the lockdown of the FCT. Hamis Orogo, on a visit to many gateways to Abuja or outside of it, reports on significant cessation of vehicular movements and empathy on the side of the people.
In the busy area of Asokoro, The traffic light is urging the traffic to move on. Conspicuously, there is no traffic to move. It is day one of the lockdown of Abuja, and across most parts of the capital city, the compliance is total. But there are peculiar cases. If you really want to appreciate the success of the lockdown of Abuja, you probably need to be where I am. Where I am is the border between Nasarawa State and the Federal Capital Territory. Now why? This is perhaps the busiest section of the FCT. In fact, there are over 10 states across this line. Amoroba, Maradaba, Yenya, and all the communities that are around there are probably the most highly populated section of the FCT, and they all find livelihood in the FCT. But today, lo and behold, this highly populated area is no longer in this festive movement. The road is empty. The traffic is not there. The people are all home. In fact, talk of lockdown, you will find the complete lockdown. Yes, there are a number of people who, in their original conviction, are ready to defy all law to come out. You can see some of them. Security agencies have forced them to stay and stand by. Many of them are pleading. Many of them are showing papers. Many of them are talking different things to be allowed to go. But definitely, they are not going. And they have been there for almost 2 hours or 3 hours. That is what most of them said. But then, of course, you cannot stop livelihood. People are earning livelihood. Across the Maradaba area, you find that the financial institutions are working. People who sell items of foodstuff are working. And along the Abuja axis, along the Enyanya axis, you will find that there are commercial motorcyclists who are there to pick passengers to take them to wherever possible. It is all working. But then, potentially what I appreciate most with this area, apart from the success of the lockdown, is the fact that if you are coming in or you are going out, you will have to be scanned. There are dedicated team of scanners who will scan you to see that whether you are carrying the virus or you are not carrying it. So generally there is empathy. Coming down, coming to AYA gives you another picture as well. Well, the same picture of compliance. AYA is a transit point. Transit to all people that are going to Maradaba Yenya, those highly densely populated areas of the Federal Capital Territory I've mentioned, and people who are going to more than 10 states of the Federation. They all come here and find transport. Moreover, AYA is also a business hub. Not less than 100 persons always find life around this area. Today, the place looks like a purgatory. There are no people there. The compliance is almost 80%. Yes, there are pockets of people coming in and going out, but then it's anything significant compared to what is actually unfolding here when the days are normal. The lockdown has caught up with a significant number of people on transit, but the expectation generally is that in the next few days, the lockdown would be total and will have greater compliance. In Abuja, Mohammed Hamis Rogo, NTA News.
Thank you. And now we head to Jos, where Zenret is standing by with more reports. Hello, Zenret.
Hello, Najatu, and welcome to Jos. Plateau State Governor Simon Bakola says the state will continue to enforce measures to ensure that coronavirus does not spread to Plateau State, as he met with more critical stakeholders to mitigate the impact of the pandemic. Priscilla Grumna reports that the state government also set up a Plateau State COVID-19 support fund.
A donation of 28.5 million naira was made by the UBA Foundation into the COVID-19 account. Corporate organizations and well-meaning individuals are to donate to the fund. Donation of facilities, medical equipment, and other consumables are also welcome. The governor who chairs the state COVID-19 emergency response task force said although the state has no recorded case of COVID-19, government has put in place various measures to stop the virus from crawling into the state.
This virus is one person. It starts with one person. And you end up having millions of people losing their lives. We cannot afford to lose life because of one individual.
Commissioner for Health, Dr. Ninkom Lar, encouraged people to turn out for the free COVID-19 test when the center is in place and explained that drugs will be administered on people above the age of 65.
They activated our ESC, Emergency Operations Center. It helps us to monitor to see what is happening in the whole 17 local governments.
Speaker of the Plateau State House of Assembly, Nuhu Abok Ayuba, and Chairman of the APC in the state, Leteb Dabang, expressed their support in this direction while appealing for more sensitization of stakeholders, especially in the rural areas in Jos. Priscilla Grumnan, NTA News.
And as Nigerians strive to cope with the challenges of COVID-19, residents of Jos are seen rushing to purchase surgical masks and hand gloves as part of preventive measures. But are these measures sufficient to prevent coming down with the virus? Ekemaran Kanen Ladoja had a chat with a public health physician and came up with these findings.
Face masks, when it comes to COVID-19 prevention, are either the surgical mask or the N95 respirator. The surgical mask, which are typically more available, are loose-fitting and cover the nose, mouth, and chin, and are used to protect the wearer from droplets, as well as prevent the spread of respiratory secretions, while the N95 respirator is a more fitting face mask.
The way people use even the surgical face masks now, you see somebody wearing it and putting it down when he wants to talk and then uses his hand up. If that hand is contaminated with an infectious disease, that face mask is contaminated and you're putting it directly into your mouth and your nose. That's where the viruses get entry.
The misuse of surgical gloves, experts say, raises the risk of more infection.
There's a proper way and a technical way in wearing even the hand gloves so that you don't contaminate it. If you don't do that, washing your hands first before putting the hand gloves, you can contaminate the hand gloves thinking that you've done it the right way.
Best way to check the spread of COVID-19 is personal hygiene, which is key, and regular hand washing with soap and water, as well as hand sanitizing and a clean environment are the way out. In Jos, Ekemaran Kaneng Ladoja, NTA News.
That's it from Jos. There's still more on Nationwide with Najatu in Abuja.
The coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, is spreading at an alarming rate all over the globe, including Nigeria. With the number of infected persons in Nigeria increasing daily, prevention is better than cure. Coronavirus has no cure. The virus spreads from one person who affects two persons, and by the time the affected person is isolated, the two persons have affected four, and it keeps spreading. You must take preventive measures to save yourself and that of the people around you. Always wash your hands with soap and water. Put distance between yourself and others. Whenever you cough or sneeze, cover your mouth. Clean and disinfect surfaces. Stay at home if you're sick and contact the proper authorities. Together, we can cut down the spread of the coronavirus. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest TV network.
Before now, no visually impaired have graduated with the first class here. And most times, it's not because they are not that intelligent or hardworking, it's just because they lack basic amenities of studying. Being visually impaired, for every effort a sighted person puts in, you have to put at least double of it.
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
This is NTA Nationwide. We'll now join Chinenye in Enugu for happenings from that zone.
Thank you, Naja Atu, and welcome to Enugu. The rehabilitation work at the Akanubiam International Airport, Enugu, has been suspended as the construction workers downed tools as a result of the coronavirus pandemic in the country. Minister of Aviation, Senator Hadi Sirika, who announced this to journalists in Enugu, assured the public that work will resume as soon as the pandemic is over. Susan Eze has details.
Regretting that the prevailing circumstances occasioned by the coronavirus pandemic in the country has altered the Easter deadline for completion of works at the airport, Senator Serika admitted that the lives of the construction workers who have gone home to their families are also important, hence the suspension of works for now.
I am announcing today that in view of the workers that had downed their tools, we will have to suspend this procurement till after the COVID-19. The people of this region, the southeastern region, crave your indulgence to please understand with the situation.
The minister is, however, glad that major works of the project have been done as the runway, complete with concrete turning points at both ends, which the minister said is the latest design in runway construction, is over 93% completed. To make the Akanu Ibiam Airport truly of international standards, other works to be completed, according to the minister, include complete perimeter fencing of the airport, water supply, construction of standard drainage system, a clinic, and an emergency operations center. Appreciating the contributions of the state government towards the actualization of the project, the minister maintained that the federal government is committed to the project and would complete same as soon as the COVID-19 pandemic is over, which he hopes would be sooner than later. In Enugu, Susan Eze, NTA News.
And as the federal and state governments double efforts to check the spread of the coronavirus pandemic, traditional rulers in Enugu State are, among other measures, sensitizing their communities on the need to observe all precautionary measures against the scourge. Amechi Pius visited some local communities in the state and filed this report.
Since the outbreak of the dreaded coronavirus in Nigeria, there's been palpable anxiety among Nigerians. Washing of hands, social distancing, using of face masks and sanitizers are some measures by government to check the spread of the virus. Governments at all levels and concerned individuals have been committing billions of naira to tackle the menace of the virus. Beneficiaries of these palliatives are those in the cities where there are hospitals, medical centers, and health workers. Those in the villages and communities where their health facilities are either not functioning or without basic equipment are vulnerable to the virus. And this is why traditional rulers are leaving nothing to chance by ensuring effective sensitization of local dwellers as measures to contain the spread of the virus.
It's not a matter of telling them and keep quiet or sit down. No, we are going round and round with the town crier, making sure that we're observing what's supposed to be observed.
Interestingly, most rural dwellers are not only aware of COVID-19, but are adhering strictly to critical measures such as washing of hands, use of sanitizer to check the spread of the dreaded coronavirus.
No hospital, no medical care, so we start within ourselves. So we have buckets and sanitizers, some people are making them by themselves.
Virtually all the small-scale grocery shops, drugstores have plastic containers with water and soap for buyers of goods to wash their hands.
So the only problem is that there is no food for people.
They appeal to both the state and federal government to provide those in the villages with palliative care to ease their pain in these trying times. In Enugu, Amechi Pius, NTA News.
And that is it from Enugu. Najatu is back to you in Abuja for more on Nationwide. Good
evening. And up next is Sports Update with Gift George.
Despite the postponement of the National Sports Festival and the Tokyo 2020 Olympics due to the outbreak of coronavirus, Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Dare, said the ministry is very much in touch with each of the athletes. He disclosed measures the ministry is adopting to monitor performance of Nigerian athletes.
To have a database, to know what their plans are, to know what support they need.
The Adopt an Athlete plan that we have, the funds are going to them. So we're happy that those funds can help them at this period when some of them cannot even make money from competitions.
The minister added that the country will stick to 11 sports as earlier agreed, and that funds have been released for pending qualifiers which those athletes can go for